Welcome to Leverage. This is episode 11. I can't believe I'm on episode 11. Anyway, I have Luisa with me today from the NEAT Method. It's such a treat. I love chatting with Luisa. Amazing human and so talented and does all the things that we don't want to do and so good at it. So I don't want to steal your thunder, but anyone who doesn't know what the NEAT Method is, I'm going to let you explain it, but thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we know the U.S. almost version will remain unnamed, but you are a Canadian entity, correct?
Actually, we are U.S. and Canadian.
See? There you go.
So
I learned something
there
new
are
today.
over 90 franchise owners of NEAT Method.
Oh, amazing.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So it was started in the U.S.?
Correct. In 2010.
Okay.
And by two lovely women, actually a third as well. And what was it, in 2019, I decided to look into it and was able to get it to come to Canada. There were four of us that brought it to...
you brought it to Canada.
Yes, there was four of us.
For you.
There were four of us. So all the way from Vancouver.
Okay.
Then two of us here in Toronto and one in Ottawa.
Amazing. Okay,
Yes.
so tell everybody what you do.
Okay, so what we do, we are a lifestyle service.
Okay.
We organize.
Okay.
We unpack.
It's like all my love language.
And we coordinate moves. So we're basically professional organizers. It's a luxury brand. We'd love to solve all the world's problems.
And my clients love when they solve their problems. Really, there's not a single person who hasn't called me and raved about you. So
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. And so even though we'd like to solve the world's problems, the one thing we do is sort of try to educate and inspire one space at a time, really.
I imagine you save some marriages.
I do. I actually say that. I actually say two things. I save some marriages, and I always say I'm not a doctor, but I'm saving lives.
There's some sanity.
Yes,
There's definitely being saved.
Definitely
for sure.
sanity.
For sure.
Definitely.
So, as I was saying, you pointed out you're a luxury brand for sure. And, we're not here to say that everybody can necessarily do this, but it is a phenomenal service. If you're thinking about, and we're going to talk about all the different levels that you can engage Luisa and her team and the NEAT Method on, but, I think from a perspective of, renovating a home and investing and understanding that this is, let me almost step back and think about how this part, that, like you said, it was a lifestyle brand. So 20 years ago, 30 years ago, your house was maybe not your biggest asset. Yeah. And now, I remember 10 years ago only having that one place that you could go buy lighting. And now you can buy amazing lighting. My clients, stagers, recommend great lighting on Amazon, on Wayfair, and so there's this explosion of all of these companies that are able to kind of add to your home. So what would you say people call you most for?
I actually think they'd probably call us most for kitchens.
Okay.
Kitchens and pantry.
Okay.
Closets. And they typically lead to storage rooms. Interesting enough. Okay. And I'll explain why. When I go into a home and they ask me to organize their kitchen, right away I ask them to see a secondary spot, a storage spot. Okay. And they honestly think that it's the kitchen they need to begin with. But in actual fact, once we get to that storage unit and you end up getting more room in that space, all of a sudden you know that you have the potential to keep whatever you need to keep in the kitchen, but we have that secondary space to utilize.
So sorry. Okay, let's back up.
Especially in a day and age when we have the air fryer, the soda stream, every gadget that everyone's taking and you don't want to store.
I can't. There's no more room for it. There's no more room for it.
And that's what I'm talking about. It's those very things that everybody is purchasing on Amazon and on all those wonderful places.
No, I refuse to get an air fryer. Right. Where are you going to put it? Yeah. And I have a large home and no, I won't do it. So interesting. So when you say storage, you're saying basement, pantry, storage room in your
existing home. Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Not a storage locker.
No.
So you go down and you're kind of like, whoa. We're not even starting in the kitchen. Okay. So do you find, and we talked a lot about this, I see a lot of value in, people who say to me, I want to renovate a kitchen, I want to renovate a bathroom, and knowing that in the same vein that there's value in hiring a designer to make sure it's done properly, right? There's a lot of value in having an organizer done, because as you were saying, a designer comes in and says, okay, functionally, yes, the drawers need to be here and the dishwasher needs to be here, and in all the ways that they design a kitchen or a bathroom. But then you might come in and say, well, I also know that you're a family of 6. Correct. And I know that you spend most of your time trying to get everybody out of the mud room. And this is where like the Ziploc need to be when you're grabbing snacks. So that drawer, small point, but huge, that drawer needs to be a little bit deeper on the top, because that's where we're going to put whatever we're going to put, right?
Correct. So interesting enough. So when renovating, if you can get us to be at the beginning of that stage, it'll help you tremendously. Even us working with the interior designer. Typically, if I can go in, declutter, look at what you have, know that you're an avid baker, or you're a cook.
That's a good point, right?
Or you have, you entertain once a week, and you have this specific tradition of doing things with charcuterie boards. Basically, I'm going to come in, I'm going to look at all your items, and I will be your best advice to the interior designer. I'm going to know that, listen, she has 2 air fryers, or she has a KitchenAid large
Right, but
mixer.
if you do charcuterie boards, you need a cupboard for all of your wood boards. Correct. Or, if you're a baker, that's an enormous amount of stuff.
Correct.
Right?
And those are the things that we often see. Find a solution where you've got those long, thin, beautiful charcuterie boards, and people typically just put them in a drawer and then take up that whole space. So now your prime real estate is all
right. And also, I've been in so many homes where you open up a cupboard and you're like, whatever's going in that cupboard will be gone in the abyss, right? Because there was supposed to be a drawer there, or it should have been shorter, or it should have been compact. Yes. And people might say, well, that's a lot of money to spend, right? But I have to tell you, from a real estate perspective, you will see the ROI on it when you go to sell your house 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, and I'll tell you why. I have walked into so many homes that were done impeccably on day one. Just every corner of that house was functional. And that sustains the test of time, that when you walk in and you opened up a cupboard and you say, I can see that this was done properly and this was a house in its day, right?
Yeah. No. You definitely know. And it's actually sometimes sad when you see those homes that are done impeccably and not put any thought into, like, for example, I had a client, they were downsizing from a large home and into a smaller home, and only to know that none of the space was created for them and their lifestyle. Right. And here you see this very expensive kitchen, and it cannot satisfy what they're bringing over, even though they've decluttered and downsized. Your basics couldn't fit in. Right. And that's sad. It really is. And it will stand the test of time. Once you go through the process, you see it. For sure. You as a realtor, what is the first thing you do when you get into a new home, or someone selling their home? You're going to ask them, declutter. That's the first thing. Declutter is key. Yeah. And your stager will not want to deal with the declutter. And we'll come in, but I can almost bet you that those potential buyers, when they walk in and they start seeing it organized and they start seeing the closets organized, they envision themselves in that space. They envision themselves doing exactly what they see.
For sure. And there is a difference. I mean, there's no data to back up what I'm about to say, but I will tell you from what I have seen. I will even go into clients' cupboards who don't want to spend that money, right? And I will go in and I will organize their spice cupboard, because someone who walks into a home, and again, perception becomes reality, and that's what it is. Even just, not to go off topic, but like someone who caulks the bathtub, right? Yeah. It's the one thing I always have done, because it's not that they care. It's not that having their handyman come in to caulk that's going to cost them more than $50. Like, it's $50 worth of work. It's the perception that someone looked after their home well enough to have a clean spice cupboard, to have the bathroom caulked. It's all the same thing. So this perception that that person had pride of ownership, that they had clean drawers, that there wasn't crumbs at the bottom, that it wasn't dirty, that it wasn't, that's minimum. But like that, but that they've invested and organized, that they have the drawers in the right place, that they can open up and go, oh my God, this is so good. People not only envision their family, they envision that air fryer.
Yes.
They envision their air fryer in that cupboard, right? Because they're like, I can't, no, the kitchen's too small.
Now that you've said that, I can actually give you a tip. So
You heard it here first. Free. Everybody write it down.
Start with a spice drawer. Always start small.
Right.
And you can start that with yourself. And oftentimes you'll go in and you'll open that spice drawer and it's full of all the backstock spices. And it's full of the spices that you use daily. Yeah. Just start there. Take all the ones that you don't use often.
Oh my God, you'd be so proud of me. I just did it.
Put it in a bin.
I got the round.
Put it elsewhere.
The Lazy Susans.
The turntable.
I was sick because you know what happened? I kept going to Buffalo and buying, there was like a new Trader Joe's spice. So I had to buy, the next thing you know, do you know how many everything bagel spice I had? Like 6. I was like, and then there was like 9 olive. I'm like, oh, I need a good olive oil. I'm out of it. And then there was like, no, there was 9.
I think I know a client of yours that also likes.
You know who you are. You're listening. But that's what happens is if you're not organized, but again, stuff that was old and it's ratty and it's like, and it just all needs to go.
It does. It
and
really
it just
does.
makes a difference that when someone's coming into your home or you on a daily basis are opening it, trying to find stuff, but that translate later on as well.
So what happens oftentimes when we go into homes is exactly that. We're going through your spice drawer. We check expiries. We do all that stuff. But what actually happens is people typically, once we take everything out and we start sorting, they start looking at them like, oh, that's where that thing is. Oh my goodness, that's why I wasn't able to use that because it's expired. So because it's all the way at the back, right?
We found this stunning, expensive steak knife set that we bought during COVID. You know, when COVID, like when we couldn't leave and we just wanted to spend money. And we were like, oh, well, we're eating at home all the time. We're having like these and we don't have to. A year and a half later, I found it at the back of my kitchen.
How aggravating is that?
Aggravating.
It is. It
if
really
only
is.
I had Luisa to
yes,
my kitchen.
Yes,
yes.
Yes.
One day.
Yes, one day.
When I renovate my kitchen, you will be the first person in there. Trust me.
Honestly, if we could be, that is my favorite part, actually. The space planning part is ideal. I'm working on a house in Schaumburg right now, and they're building it, and I'm going through the spaces with the designer. Why? Because I know the homeowner. Right. And the designer knows the homeowner from a different angle. So we come in and I put a different perspective in it for the designer, and the designer appreciates it because she can solve all of their problems, right? Right. So you're looking at it and saying simple things as in, we're here and there's a family of 6. Have you considered hampers, or have you considered hampers in their room, or whatever it may be, but we're looking at it from the homeowner's perspective. Right. And so their investment is really, there is a return on their investment. They're really maxing it out.
So that's your favorite thing.
My favorite.
Right. So what's your favorite room in the house to do?
That's changed actually through the years.
Okay.
So it used to be kitchens, but I'm starting to get to a place, and I also have places I dislike to do. Okay. And I often ask my girls that, right? But through the years, I think closets have become a great space for me to organize. Okay. And I'm really liking storage units. Okay. As in storage
like
inside,
pantries
inside your home, like a secondary storage area.
Okay.
I find that space ends up helping the whole family in so many ways. For those who either want to keep an activity or keep a keepsake, or have, they usually have mom and dad saying, okay, well, here we have our seasonal things and I need that space. Right. But it can be a space that's shared by everyone in your home, right? So, I have a few favorite spaces.
And are you going to reveal which ones you don't like to do?
You ready?
Yeah.
Offices. I'm being honest. but
Why?
we do it.
Why?
You know what? For me, it's not so much about the desk or organizing that in the office space, but it's more about your paperwork. And so
It's very personal.
It is very
Maybe
personal.
That, right. Yeah. I would
Very
say
personal.
people probably would let you touch and control everything that's in a kitchen.
Yes.
Whereas I can see someone who works from home or would just be like, back off.
Actually, interesting. Well, all our girls, everything that we do is confidential. And we
For sure.
make
For
sure
sure.
that our clients feel comfortable.
Right.
We want them to know that it's a safe, like once we walk in, this
Right.
is
Right,
for us
for sure.
to complete and for us to do.
Right.
But I typically like to bring people who have strengths in that area on those particular projects.
Okay.
So if I know someone works really well with offices, or someone works really well with newborn babies or babies and toddlers.
And you're so great at that. I would say we look at things the same way in the sense of like really pairing the right people
Yes.
with the right, which is so important. And again, we just had a designer on and talking about, asking the right questions, interviewing more than one person, because it's so important that you really feel like you're going to work with someone well, understand what the costs are. And I do want to touch on that. I'm sure people are interested, but I think a lot of times people, and again, I said it about myself, is people don't call realtors because they feel like, how many times I've had people be like, oh, I just don't want to bother you. We're not thinking about moving for a year or two from now. And I'm like, okay, but why would you not know what the process is? Or I can tell you what's going on now, or it might tell you whether you're going to move or not move at all.
Yes,
right?
Very good point.
Now, I don't charge for a consult, for example, but for you, what's the process? Like, so someone calls you and they say, okay, we saw you on Rachel Levy's podcast and we wanted to know how you work. What's like the next step? Like, is it a call? Is it a meeting?
So there's a couple of things. You can go on our website. So there's a website where you'll see all of our lovely locations, our NEAT family, which has been a great it's just a great journey. All of them, honestly, yes, they are. It's a great family. So you can either go on our website and go to the location.
Okay.
So when you go in, you can go to Canada and you can see all of our locations in Canada. Okay. You can go to the U.S. and see all of our locations in the U.S. Okay. So you can reach me through that, or you can reach me through Instagram, which is Toronto NEAT Luisa, or you can give me a call. We come in. Mm-hmm. We'll do a consultation, and our consultations are $95 an hour currently, and we'll go through the spaces. Okay. Typically, we don't like to go through more than 3 spaces. Reason being, it could be too overwhelming.
Totally.
So, like an unpack. An unpack is overwhelming. Mm-hmm. We typically do this stuff without the homeowner really there, right? That's what makes it such a treat. Right. So we'll come in for a consultation. We'll look at your spaces. We'll take a walkthrough. We'll look at your points of pain, what you really want done, what you would like solved. And I'll give you an example of that. And once we do that, we head back. We put a proposal together for you and a guesstimate. Okay. And we can also always talk through the proposal. So sometimes people will say, oh, I thought I wanted to do 3 spaces. Let's just start with 1.
Right.
And
are there minimums? Like, do you work on minimums? No? Okay.
No minimums.
Okay.
Our hourly rate is also $95 an hour. Per person, per organizer. Right. And it depends on also the size of the team. So depending on the intensity of what we're looking at, then I determine how many people I need on that project, right?
And then it's plus, and how does product work in that? So as we all know that like all the baskets and the clear lucite, containers, and you see it all over Instagram and, yes. It is becoming really mainstream. Mm-hmm. But, again, we'll talk about that misconception, but, that is also something that you bring to the table in understanding the best products, where to get it, how it fits in. So that's on top of your hourly rate, correct?
Correct.
And is that part of the guesstimate as well?
No. Okay. So sometimes people come to us with a budget and say, look, this is how much I want to spend. And then we'll take a look at that. But we bring in everything. So we take care of the process from beginning to start. So we'll come into your home. We will take everything out. We will sort, organize, check expiries, whatever it may be. We bring product along with us. And so you don't have to worry about buying the bins or the baskets or any of that sort of stuff.
For sure, which is so amazing. And her products are amazing.
Yes, and our NEAT Method products, actually in 2020, we started realizing there were some gaps in the area that we wanted to fill in. So we have our own product.
Oh, you have your own line?
Yes. So NEAT Method, NEAT Method has product as well that we love. Do you carry it
yourselves only?
I do. We do. We do, and it is in the U.S. We as Canadians bring them up as well. So if anyone's interested, I've had several people contact me through Instagram and asking me can I get this basket?
For sure.
Especially because of exchange and bringing it up, whereas we'll bring it up in larger quantities. So we have product. We'll bring in the product. And then after we do all the organizing, all the donations, all the garbage comes with us. So what better way than to get it done and then not have to worry about the whole thing, especially when it comes to moves. We come in, we'll do the unpacking, and all the boxes go with it.
Huge.
It's huge. It is huge, especially because we'll focus on getting you unpacked and done quickly. How often do you have clients that unpack, but just unpack for the week and then say, I'll take care of the rest of the boxes next week? Or take a week off.
There's two kinds of clients. The ones that are unpacked within the first day and they just sit down and they cannot live in that disorganization. Or they're ones who are like, we'll be surrounded by boxes for months because they just don't have the time, or they just, small children, busy work schedules, for sure. Okay, so we've got a guesstimate from you. You bring them in, great. And then, so let's say we're not moving. Let's say we are not building a brand new house. Talk to me about some of the smaller opportunities people come to you just to, like, we're in spring. People are thinking about spring cleaning. Yes. I don't want to get into tips and tricks yet, but like, are there some pieces, smaller projects, let's say, that someone might come to you for that's, a little bit on the lower end of the scale?
So lower end of the scale, sometimes they just want us to come in for the bathroom. They're actually considering renovating, but have us come in before you renovate. Because sometimes you come in and you're like, you can find easy solutions. A great example, a bathroom. How often do you walk into this little bathroom and you don't have drawers, but you have this one little area, and I kind of use it when companies coming over, and this is my go-to bathroom, and I live in a condo and this is my only bathroom. What do I do? And we can come up with solutions where you're like, okay, you know what? We can retrofit drawers in here without doing a major renovation, right? And it's once we see the spaces, we'll try to come up with the solutions for you.
So you're almost like contractor/designer consult. It's very interesting.
Actually, I think we're a combination of, I often say that we are sort of between the designer and the stager in between, and just making life happy. Really, right?
No, that's amazing. Yeah. Okay.
And for those that own their home and that are not doing this, there are those that are in their existing home and not, they typically have some things that life changes in their lives, whether it's a new baby, whether it's an empty nester, sending a child off to university, right? Or a death. Sometimes a death can be very difficult, and the spouse or the other person doesn't want to handle all that stuff. And we've done that as well, right?
Wow. That's just reconfiguring your house to a child going off to university is an interesting perspective also. Meanwhile, they come back, don't they? For all my children are listening. Okay, so let's dig into, we're in spring cleaning. I know I am starting to think about it. Shoemaker's daughter on my end. Oh my God. It's like, I don't have time to do my own house. I can tell you what to do with your house. What would you say are some like great tips for anybody who's thinking about spring? Like, you must see it. I bet you walk into houses and people are like, oh no, I cleaned for you. Here you go. And you're like, You're like, Good first try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? A lot of people often think that they can do it themselves. It's just the challenge of personally trying to, where do I start? Where do I do this? Where does it come from?
Yeah.
But I think the greatest place to start when it comes to spring cleaning, it's right when you're doing your change in the clothes.
Okay.
I think that's a great place to start because all often, even if you have a small closet, I have a small closet. So you're working with that one little space.
Right.
And oftentimes people have a hard time getting rid of some stuff. And if you're in that spot that you're having a hard time getting rid of the items, I would recommend taking a bag, take out the things that you're having dealt with. Haven't worn it in a year, haven't worn it in 2 years. Put it in the bag. You may not donate it right away, but if you've set it aside, put it in the garage, put it in the storage unit, guaranteed if you haven't touched it within those few months, you're not going to feel that it's gone.
Oh, it's interesting.
And you can get it right out the door.
I always feel like I look at something and I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to wear it again. Which, by the way, has happened.
Yes, yes.
Where I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't throw that out. Or I didn't donate it. I would never throw it out, but donate it. But then I also feel like, you know, that old, there's that meme going around like, oh, I've got that donation bag. I donated it and it's in my back of my trunk for 6 months. But I would also say it's an interesting perspective to say just like, okay, if you're not sure, put it into a bag and then put it downstairs.
Yeah. I'll give you another tip, actually. Kitchens.
Again, heard it here first. Yeah.
So when you go into kitchens, oftentimes it's like, no, I use that. No, but I use that. So I'll tell them, like, let's say it's a slew of knives or serving tools, utensils, sorry. Take those items, put them in a Tupperware, put them in the pantry, put them on the top shelf of a kitchen area where you don't go.
Right.
If you have not touched it in a few months, you're not going to touch it.
Yeah.
Whether you're basting a turkey, whether you don't use that, like, just you'll know when you really need it. And by setting it aside and taking it out of your prime real estate, you're already solving your problems. And those are small things that people can do on their own at home.
And I think that we have just become this consuming society where, especially over COVID, like my knives, where we all were just so desperate just to do something. And we bought so many of those gadgets. Like, I'm thinking about the popcorn maker I have at my cottage. I think of all the things that I bought during COVID, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we don't know that we can do with less.
We can do with less.
But then we're like, if we give it away, then we didn't have it. And that's a really good tip. Just put it away somewhere.
Just put it away somewhere. Just stack those few items.
Right.
And you will find that bin will not be open and it can go straight out the door. You're just donating it. It's not like you're putting it in a landfill. You're donating it to others.
No, exactly. Right. Exactly. And if it was a mistake, you know what? Someone who really needed it is using it.
Yes.
And that's it. And you did a great thing.
I think we were all served humble pie and you made a great point. We did buy a lot of gadgets. And that is another thing. With all these gadgets everyone's buying, we're trying to find solutions for them.
Oh my God. You know how many people I walk into homes and it's like you open up that drawer and it's just there. And it's not a judgment. Like I've got them in my house also, but we've all got, and like I have a kosher house, so I've got 2 of everything. Actually say 6 of everything. But like, you know, you needed to have the new spatula and then the new microplane and the new, you know, and you're looking and you're like, really? Did I need all of that?
And you know what? Sometimes if it's not organized, it's going to get mixed up. But you don't want it to get mixed up, especially in a kosher kitchen, right?
No, for sure.
With 2 dishwashers and 2 of everything, right? Yes, it is. It is a lot.
Okay, so we're going to leave on this note. My last question would be, what would you say is the biggest misconception that people have before they've engaged you, before they come to you, they're asking you all these questions? What's that one thing that you feel like they've just missed the mark on what you guys do?
A lot of people, I think the misconception is that they can do it themselves. I think that's huge. And then there are those that want you to come in and want you to start small because they're afraid.
Are they afraid of cost? Are they afraid of letting control?
No, I think it's letting control.
Right.
But you have to understand that for us, typically those who hire us are like us.
Right.
They just don't have the time. They have busy lives, either kids in sports or activities and or both husband and wife are working. It's a lot on the go. But a lot of them feel that, are you sure you can do all of this?
Right.
And
You're like, this is my jam.
this is totally our jam.
Yeah.
And it feels so good.
Yeah.
And this is the very reason why there are a lot of return clients, because once we do that one space, it's like, why would I have wanted to take that on myself when I could have someone come in a few days and just take that away from me?
For sure. And on a very like humble note, I'm not being dramatic, but like I'm dramatic, but like it can be life changing. Like it can't, like it literally, when you change the organization of your home, your life gets easier on a day-to-day basis. And I'm not solving world peace and anything like that. And there are a lot of problems in this world, don't get me wrong. But I think that from a day-to-day basis, I think people normalize how dysfunctional their house is and where things are all over the place. And when it's no longer that way, they wonder how they lived before. Right?
And it's your home. It's where your safe haven.
Well,
it's where
solace.
It's your solace. It's the first place you wake up in the morning and you're starting off from there, and you're coming back after a hard day's work.
And there is so much stuff going on, like in the world, right? So to have that is, well, it is a privilege, and it was a privilege having you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So you touched on it before, but just as a reminder, if anyone wanted to reach out and find out a little bit more about what you did, they find you at Toronto NEAT Luisa,
or just go to our neatmethod.com website. Yeah. And you'll see all of us lovely people.
Yes, we'll put it in the show notes as well.
But yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.